This video entry is in fulfillment of my reflective journal for cultural humility and midwifery care. So what came to me when considering cultural humility and midwifery, and whether I see it or not, really varies depending on where I'm at. So my clinical placement is just one county south of myself, and there's a large population of Slavic people, Russian, Ukrainian, Polish. They have a wide variety of cultural differences from my own, and I feel like the greatest thing that I have learned in working with these people is just having them teach me, instead of thinking that something is strange or glazing past a difference that we have, is asking them to explain what their culture is, how it's different, why it matters to them. And not once has anyone gotten frustrated with me asking questions about why they do certain things. My preceptor saw an evil eye that Russian people often paint an evil eye, which is a blue mark with like a black line through it behind their baby's ear, to ward off evil spirits in the first month of life. And she saw that and like panicked. Granted, she thought it was like a birth defect that she missed, or like a birthmark, and it wasn't, but her reaction, because she didn't know what she was looking at, was a little offensive to the client. I hadn't either seen an evil eye before that point, not on a child. So that was a good reminder, just in doing research in different cultures and knowing what to expect. We also have quite a few clients, being here in Northwest Washington, having lots of clients who are of the First Nations, and many live on the reservations, and their births are always very interesting. I feel like I learn a lot because they include all of the senses in their birth experience. They call on their ancestors, and they use different herbs in labor, different sounds, and, you know, with crystal bowls and horns and drums. And it's always really a spiritual, sacred experience. So I think my main takeaway from seeing cultural humility in midwifery care is that we have a greater opportunity to bond with our clients than for somebody that's in a hospital-based maternity care system, because we get to see them over and over, and we get to learn about them, and when they're filling out their initial paperwork, and they get to put in their self-identified race or ethnicity, we can ask them questions about that, you know, and ask them what their desires are in birth. And knowing ahead of time, I feel like, gives us a better view of what they're wanting in their birth experience. Some clients will disclose that, you know, there's going to be a leader from my church that's going to be at my birth, you know, or there's going to be someone that plays music at my birth with a horn. And all of these things prepare us better, being that the midwives that I work with and myself are all white people. It's a good learning experience for us to get to know this client, get to know their culture, what's important to them. And what's beautiful about this cultural humility is that the client gets to teach us. We get to teach them plenty. But they get the opportunity to teach us, and to teach us also not just about their culture, but why it's important to them, and what this experience represents for their child, is also really special, because it tends to be not so much in the general American culture, but in these other cultures within America, for the First Nations and for Slavic people, they see birth differently. They see it more of a spiritual sense, and that it's very sacred. Um, I feel like just in the births that I've seen, people often choose of these different cultures to birth at home where they can have more of these or practice their culture more freely than bringing that all into the birth center. Um, anyway, I've really enjoyed it, getting to know their cultures and getting to know more about my neighbors that live around me. I think the greatest thing to work on in midwifery care is just learning and being aware of differences, that not everybody's going to be the same either, and assuming that all Native people, are going to be having a drummer at their birth, and burning sage. Not everybody's going to practice in the same way, and continuing to communicate with clients on an individual basis and learning what's specifically important to them. So I am attaching my reference, which is from Molly Altman. It's called Information and Power, Women of Color's Experiences Interacting with Healthcare Providers. I am attaching that below.